call this 82nd meeting of the Jacksonville Tourism Development Authority to order. I'd like to thank everyone for being here, those that could, and thank Director Rick Young that is joining us by phone. Again, thanks again, Rick. We've got to a couple of items we're going to get done pretty quickly today. We've got adoption of the agenda. We need a motion to adopt the agenda, but modify it to put item 3 as item 1, the meeting schedule. If I can have that motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. Appreciate that. And then we've got the approval of the minutes, the regular meeting of July 29th.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes as amended, just one quick change there.
Yeah.
Second.
All right. Very good. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Great. Now, the next item we want to address is our 2022 meeting schedule. It was originally item 3, but now it's item 1. I guess there's some presentation. Richard, you're going to give us the...
Mr. Young, who's joining us, has a cat in the background there.
That's okay.
Yes. Mr. Chairman and Directors, when we started this new organizational arrangement back in January of 2021, we gave you a proposed schedule that has now had a year of experience. You know, you have been a director for quite a while, but the rest of us who joined you as a staff, we did not have as much education or experience as you had. And we now realize that it is very important to front load the year, the calendar year, because of your budget. So what we're recommending to you is that your schedule for 2022 be that you meet on February the 24th, April 28th, May the 26th, June the 30th, September 29th, and November 17th. And that in between those meetings, you have your ad hoc committee meetings. Now, we do not have a schedule for those. Those will be scheduled on an as-needed basis. But based upon the excellent work that both ad hoc committees have done this year, it is likely that you would probably meet 2 times, maybe 1 time in between the regular TDA meetings. The goal would be to adopt your budget on May the 26th. And in doing that, the goal would be for all applications for funding assistance would be received during the month of April, reviewed with your ad hoc committees during that time, and then be ready to adopt your budget on May the 26th. We can certainly add additional dates. We can certainly change dates. It is proposed that all of these meetings continue, as far as the full meetings, would continue to be at 3:30 in the afternoon unless you'd prefer a different schedule, and that they would continue to be on Thursday, and that would be the last Thursday of the month. What is your pleasure, please?
Well, it seems agreeable to me, especially with the flexibility to add or delete meetings along the way. So it's worked out so far good this year, I think. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the calendar.
I make a motion to approve the calendar as presented.
Second.
All right, very good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The opposed? Great. Passes unanimously. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
everyone.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Young, I know it's got other obligations. This is all of the action items that we had for the commission to consider this evening, for the TDA to consider. If Mr. Young needs to check out or check in, he can do that at this time. We just need to know for the minutes. But the remaining members, even though we don't have a quorum here in the chambers, can continue to hear the information that will be coming in. Mr. Young, Mr. Davis, and Mr. Wright can look at it on TV later. Again, there will be no further action items, so we'll leave that up to Mr. Young. If he can stay with us, if he can't, we understand. Thank you for joining us.
And thanks again, Rick. We appreciate the extra effort. It's sometimes difficult, I know. So that'll move us on to our second item of business today is our promotions ad hoc committee report. And we're going to start out with a report from Teresa is going to help us. Or Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to address a couple of things real quick. Wrapping up the marketing campaign, when we met in July, we had not completed the campaign, so we didn't have final stats. If you remember, we showed you the videos, and we did 2 targets for the campaign. One was for what we're going to call empty nesters, and another one was for younger families that were looking for vacation, long weekends. The campaign ran from May through mid-July, and we sent them to the website and had an itinerary, basically, of choices of things to do and outdoor activities. So the empty nester campaign was basically, these are a couple slides from the campaign. We couldn't do that and have Susan in the room at the same time. So discover your best self and connect again. Were a couple of the slides just basically saying enjoy, come here and enjoy a long weekend, and there's plenty of things to do. So the campaign itself got over 200,000 impressions, and that is number of people that actually saw the videos, this particular video, and the clicks that we got on that were 1,700. And if you remember, a click is when the relevance of that is when someone sees the ad. If they're interested, if it's relevant to them and they're interested in seeing more, they will click on it to get some more information. If they're not interested, they won't click, or they may not even watch it all the way through. The Family Fun campaign talked about vacationing without breaking the bank. Bring your family to Jacksonville, and there's lots of family-friendly activities to do. This campaign really blew up. We were happy with the results. It's kind of what we expected, is young families are definitely looking to travel. They're probably ready to get out of the house, quite frankly. So this campaign brought over almost 400,000 impressions, and it had 10,000 clicks. So the total campaign results were 570 plus total impressions. The click-through rate, the total clicks were 12,000. The click-through rate is the percentage of people that would click through was 5.93, and that may not sound very high. However, that is 31% higher than the average industry standards. So the campaign did very well. The view-through rate is the number, it calculates the number of people that actually watch the video through to the end. And those ads were seen, 76% of the people that saw them stayed with the ad the whole time. So that means the ads were engaging and were relevant for what they were looking for. So one of the other ways there's Susan. One of the other ways we measure the results is we watch the website traffic and what happens during the campaigns. So I wanted to just give you a couple of stats here, and you can't read it on the screen, so my apologies for that. But we used April as a benchmark. We looked at the unique visitors, which is the unique visitor is the person that comes to the website for the first time, as opposed to total visitors. I may go to the website and come back later. So I'm only counted once as a unique visitor. In April, the unique visitors were at 1,700, so that's our benchmark. That's 1,700 people that came to the website for information. In May, when the campaign started, at the end of May, we were up to 4,700. Trending up. In June, we had 5,400 unique visitors, and in July, there were 3,600 unique visitors. Now, in July, the campaign ended halfway through the month. So had we stayed on track, that month would have produced over 7,000 probably. So the campaigns were very successful. And I hear from the hoteliers, that, business was up. We can't take all the credit. We'd like to take a little bit of credit and share in that, but the summer was good for them.
To show you if I may interject a second, if you look at the financial report, which is the very last page of your document, we do believe that the campaign was successful, and what I would do is point out some financial information. Now, the campaign began in May.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And if you'll notice, and I'm not going to compare FY20 because we recognize that's obviously the heart of the pandemic. The TDA receipts for May of FY19 was almost $136,000. For this May, you're at $128,000. And compared to last May, which was roughly $78,000 in the middle of the pandemic. The other thing is look at July. July of this year, when the campaign really would have been seeing the greatest results because you've been advertising through the campaign, you had $151,000 generated versus 2 years ago of 154, and versus last year right at 120,000. So all indications from the financial side is that these campaigns resulted in money being collected, which means what? Heads on beds. So please continue.
Thank you.
A quick scan of the history there, July would have been the second best month ever, it looks like. So
Yes, sir.
that's very good.
So I wanted to skip over and talk about the promotional, the funded events. And we have only had one so far for this fiscal year, and that was the Marine Corps Half Marathon. They were on track to have over 900 registered runners, and the base decided that they had to go virtual. So the base made that call, and they went virtual probably 30 days, I want to say, before the race. And what they do is they give them three options. You can either run it virtually and still get your medal. You can defer to next year, or you can get a refund. And typically they get 30 to 40, somewhere between 30 and 40% refunds, and the rest of them will either defer or go ahead and run it virtual. So we don't have the final report from them, but we will by the next meeting. This weekend is the Onslow Veterans Powwow. That is in full swing with their marketing campaign, and it is going nuts. I talked to Raquel this morning just to kind of catch up with her and see where she was, and they had a couple of hundred room nights that she was aware of. They had filled the block at one hotel and had to add some room nights there, and she doesn't have reports from the other two hotels yet. So what I can tell you is they have 10 tribes that are coming. This is an intertribal event. They have 10 tribes coming, 2 from New York, Nebraska, South Dakota, Arizona, and several from North Carolina. It's a big event. She said she's answering 20 to 25 messages a night from Facebook and from the contact form on the website. So people are interested in her event. So we'll see how that goes. If you're interested in going, probably the highlight, the time to be there would be in your seat by noon when they do the grand entry, because all of the dancers from every group, men, women, children, veterans, all of them come into the arena all together in a procession. So that's pretty impressive, I would think.
Where's the location?
It's at the Onslow County Fairgrounds.
Okay. Is it open to the public, or?
Yes, sir, it's free to the public, actually. So that's one of the cool things about this event is they're not typically open to the public. And so this one is open. And they also are having a veteran, they're having a tribute for veterans in their native culture, as well as all veterans. So they'll do that.
Excuse me, you said it was noon was the opening ceremony?
Mm-hmm.
This Saturday?
Mm-hmm. Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday the 2nd.
Mm-hmm. So FTM Fashion Week is the end of October, and she is doing her event at the Arts Council, actually. And we did what you just did, Randy. You're going to do what? But to be honest, when you look at the pictures, we've looked at a couple of some photography already has been done for some cast model calls, and it gives it a feel of like a New York Fashion Week because it's smaller and more intimate. And I think it's going to do really well. She sold out of the VIP tickets, and so because of the health restrictions, she has decided to go virtual with the rest of the tickets. And it's kind of like a pay-per-view event where you can purchase a ticket, gather your friends, and have a watch party. So I think she'll end up doing pretty well with that. So a couple of events that are coming up that we just wanted to bring up. We do support these events by way of cross-promoting with our social media and using the billboards, et cetera. The Sports Commission has Freddy's Frozen Custard Challenge. Onslow Oktoberfest is the 22nd and 23rd. They're doing their plate sale like they did last year. They decided not to have a big event because of COVID. So, but they added a unique element this year in that they're really promoting and encouraging people to buy plates for frontline workers. So that's a pretty cool little spin they put on it, and I hope that really pans out for them. Beirut observance has gone virtual, of course. The Coastal Trout Series is a new fishing series that Scott has put together with a couple of folks here, the Rotary here, also the Rotary in Swansboro. I'll get into that in a second. And then Veterans Tribute Weekend is the first weekend in November. Perfect segue into what are we doing for Veterans Tribute Weekend this year. So like last year, you know, we've had a lot of talks on what do we do, what's safe to do, what's the right thing to do. And with the current conditions, what we've decided is everything is just basically going to be safe outdoor events. So we will have the parade. We will help promote the parade. The family event at the Commons will happen again. And the Lejeune Memorial Garden tours. We'll have 2 tours a day, 2 on Saturday and 2 on Sunday, where people can sign up ahead of time. And we are using our media partners to help promote and encourage people to nominate their veteran for the Walk of Honor, which is the signs that you guys, the city makes and puts out, much like the Hero Mile. And the addition of the fishing tournament is something we've talked about since year 1. We worked with Scott, and he was able to help us put this together. And the cool thing about that is that it's a 4-weekend series. And the fishermen, this first year, it looks like they're going to do $7,000 is the total purse, which is pretty good for a trout series. I understand I'm not a fisherman, but the fishermen that want to qualify have to fish 3 out of 4 weekends. So if we can grow this from the ground up, it's already, 2 of them are already really successful. If we can help them grow it from the ground up, it will also encourage people to come from out of town, and they'll spend the night. So we have promoted the Veterans Tribute Weekend with some of our Visit and See programs. And remember, in our budget, there's a $10,000 promotions budget, which we will use most of just to get the word out on what we're doing. And next year, we look forward to, in first quarter, being able to start up some planning sessions and working with our media partners and see what we can really do for next year. And that completes your marketing report from me. And I'm going to turn it over to Susan, who is going to cover some of the media placement.
Thanks, Teresa. Hi, everybody. Happy fall. Susan Dozier from DK Communications Group here. I wanted to just let you know what we did this summer. We had some exceptional media placements. Travel Awaits is a national travel site. Loretta Berry stayed with us for a few nights and produced actually 3 stories for this national site. Her first one on a weekend in Jacksonville had 27 partner links. Now, why that matters is when a major site like Travel Awaits clicks into another site here in our neighborhood, that really gives that site a big bump in organic SEO. That means it comes up in those website listings at a higher place. So what this is doing is spreading that organic search love to all of our partners that this story clicked to. We had like 81 social shares, 161,000 estimated reach. The next piece she did for us was about downtown Swansboro, and many of the partner links in that story went to downtown Swansboro small businesses, of course, as well as Visit Jacksonville's site, looking at about a little under 50,000 reach there. Yet one more was a great story on Hammocks Beach State Park. It went into detail about the ferry, how to get around, if the ferry's not running, marsh cruises, and things like that. They have a really exceptional collection of state and national park site stories on their site, which was one of the reasons we targeted this outlet. There were, of course, then in this story links to Hammocks Beach State Park and Paddle NC. Moving on, you all that have worked with me before know my passion for our bike trails. This particular image that was used in a Charlotte Parent online story is also one of our top images when we use it on social media, Facebook and Instagram. Very, very popular. And I just think our bike trails where you can run through the marsh and the waters and our beautiful boardwalks is just such an incredible asset here. This story had a link. It covered bike trails in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. So I was extremely excited to get us included here. Lots of social shares and then a link back to the trail information on our city site. If you continue on, we had yet another national placement with Thrillist. Thrillist is a site that aggregates literally lots of different lists, incredible traction, lots and lots of people who pay attention to and read this site. Our national freelancer who had been with us during the pandemic, Matt Meltzer, landed this placement, and it was about the cheapest beach towns. And that wasn't a bad thing to be a cheap beach town, as you can tell, you know, when you see the traction that we got from our affordable vacation without breaking the bank. It's talking about beach towns that you can go and afford and have a great time. So we feel like about 112,000 people saw this, 69,000 social shares, and we were one of several mentioned in this story. A lot of our writers give back to us and continue to be involved with us after they leave. NC Tripping was here 2 years ago, and they did another news story about 15 great North Carolina cities to live in and visit, and we were included. They are a very important outlet for us because they are a young family with children, and that was a new placement that we had without having to rehost. We also have had the benefit and enjoyment of working with our own social media that sometimes sparks a local story. And so WNCT did a story on Regina Trichet, the waffle lady at the Hampton Inn here in Jacksonville. And it went wild on their social, 192 social shares. And we love Regina. There's nobody else like her. And it's just such a unique story. A lot of our writers who come here go have breakfast there just so they can meet her and try her waffles. Talking about our social media, we continue to grow our interaction, and our followers continue to grow. We're up to 3,200 followers on Facebook. You can see the powerful reach, the number of people we're reaching that are seeing our messaging over and over again. On Instagram, we're just over 1,300, and you can see our reach is growing there as well. So very pleased about that. It's a great way. One of our strategies with social media is to make sure that our realtors and people who are seeing and welcoming people into our area for the first time are all on board and following us. We're trying to hook them up with events. We're trying to show them what to do. We know that these newcomers or anybody coming to our area, visiting family and friends, is the #1 reason people come to North Carolina. So what we're hoping to do with our Facebook and Instagram is to not only greet our travelers, but to make sure our local audience is tuned in and that they know how to welcome our guests and that they're able to show off our destination in the best way. As we move on, I wanted to take a quick look at where traveler sentiment is so that we can set the stage for, what we'll be doing with media and marketing this fall. Teresa gave you the down low on our events and things like that. Basically, our traveler, there is a little uncertainty out there, especially early on in September, even now, that's been there. And so they're not quite as sure about traveling confidently, but 57% they're still going, and that's a lot of people. And so the preferred activities are outdoors. That's why you heard us say that we were going to keep all of our outdoor activities for Veterans Tribute Weekend. We have our incredible fishing. So much of our biking and things like that that are key assets for us are outside. So that works. We have our beautiful beaches in Swansboro and the surrounding areas. So that works great. Road trips are still very crucial and very important and a key word for us. And you'll see those words, road trip or getaway, come up again and again. As we move forward into some media pitching and some opportunities around this fall, in October, I will be at the Visit North Carolina Media Mission in Raleigh. We'll be talking to all kinds of different journalists in Raleigh. I'll see our friends from NC Tripping, several of the Triangle magazines and online sites will be there. A lot of our influencers, people who we've hosted before and some that we haven't. So I'm working with Kim Burley-Tillman here with the city right now to update our pitch sheet and just, refine some of our storylines. One of the things we'll be hitting, of course, is outdoors, but we're also going to be talking about some of our fabulous ethnic foods and just some of the rare experiences that you can have here, like our Grand Prix Series runs and things like that, things you can't get anywhere else. Onslow County, Salem Clark will also be attending. She and I always team up, and I'm very grateful for our collaboration and partnership during these events like this. And so if we look ahead into fall promotion, just to summarize one more time, we're talking fall fishing, fall tournaments, we're talking outdoor activities, and outdoor dining. And I got to tell you, I love this photo. This was a photo shoot from this year, and that's Just Got Real Inshore Charters, and that was in the morning. That's a sunrise. That is not a sunset. And that is also an image that's doing very, very well for us. If we keep going here, this is the ad that you will see if you crack open the current Our State magazine. We decided, our play on fall color is red, white, and blue. And what could be more appropriate for our destination and us being home to Camp Lejeune. And so that ad is out there. We've already gotten some good feedback on it, and so we're very excited about that. We wanted you to see it and make sure you look in Our State and find it. It stands out beautifully on the page. And right before we go to the hotel update, I wanted to just give a shout out and give you an update that Bayonet Cruises retired or will retire this November. They've done their last cruise, and that's a big loss for us. They have been an incredible tourism partner. I just wanted to publicly thank them and just let you all know that if you know of a young entrepreneur or an older entrepreneur that's looking to do cruises on the New River, we have a giant vacancy where they were. They were an incredible part of what we offered riders. They were incredible attraction and bait for people to come and visit us. So if you all know of people looking for things to do, or wanting to start a new business, that's certainly an opening that they lead. Nobody can be them, but I certainly appreciate them and what they've done for us as tourism partners. There's two other needs I just want to put on your radar as people are looking at entrepreneurial opportunities. We still definitely need some bike rentals and some paddleboard and kayak rentals on the New River, and that's an important thing, to be that welcoming destination so that people don't have to bring in their bikes. We know that the new Big Branch bike trail is getting wild usership. I mean, wild is in a very positive way, wild. And so, we want to make it easier for people to experience that who, if they come in and want to rent a bike, they can do that. So as your head is ticking, go ahead and think about that. And thank you so much. I appreciate your help and the work from everybody to make all these things possible. And I'll turn it over to our hoteliers.
All right. Well, fortunately, I guess they're so busy they couldn't make it here today. So I guess that speaks for itself. Okay.
What, Chris did shoot me a quick text. Would it be appropriate to maybe share that?
Share that.
Because he was ill, and so I'll just quickly.
Right.
he had said that, just a very quick overview. He said, certainly, you know, things are calming down at this time of the year. Forgive me as I look down and look at my phone. Government business has experienced a notable increase in the market over the past few weeks when compared to previous months. The majority of it is related to project work at the base, but there is also demand tied to corporate contract-related business. Group demand has all but returned to pre-pandemic levels, which is a very good sign. Wedding group business remains very healthy, and corporate group inquiries also increased since our last meeting. So, sounds good.
It is. It is great. Thank you. Thank you, Susan and Teresa. That's a good report. I appreciate that. As far as the, I guess the next item of information we're going to receive is a tourism-related ad hoc committee report. And I guess we can start out with Ken, and you'll TO it to, or just start with Anthony or Deanna. Anyway.
No, oh, you got that? Okay. Thank you very much, Chairman. That was a great presentation, by the way. Thank you. It appears that our money is in the right place to put our message out, and these folks do such a great job of doing that locally and around the state, so we appreciate that. It's my pleasure to let you know what we've done in the ad hoc committee meeting on the 22nd of September. We had great input from the staff in letting us know where we are with our signs, and I hope everybody has had a chance to see some of these signs around the city, because they're nice, but more important, they're accurate and they get people to where they want to go, and they're a great visual thing. As a matter of fact, I was down in Swansboro today, and we talked about this at our meeting. We didn't know that Swansboro was putting signs up, or that they had put the signs up, and we talked about that. And I happened to be in Swansboro this morning, and was able to look at their signs a little closer. Our signs look better, by the way. But it is so nice to see this happening in Jacksonville. I want to give you a quick report. Here is a recap of the operating funds that we have in our two funds. Operating fund is right under 480, and the fund balance update is 2.6. And we have the wayfinding, the Lejeune Memorial Gardens, the Beirut Memorial Grove, and the Welcome Center and the sports-oriented investment. Those are some of the funding opportunities, and some of the ones that we have funded, and some of the ones that are on the horizon. Which button do I hit? I'll hit this one and see what happens. That's not it. Let's go this way. This is the detail on the budget. Sturgeon City, the debt payment every year is $150,000. I think we've made 2 payments, so we still have 8 to go. 9, okay. But each year we're obligated to fund $150,000 out of the budget. The signage is still, the final figure is to be determined, and other projects also to be determined. So the total unobligated is $629,000. The unassigned balance of the 2.3, the previous figure you saw of the 2.6 is an update. This is what it was before it was updated. This is a look at what the signs look like. That one has been completed, or those signs have been. Here are wayfinding signs from the North Carolina Department of Transportation. And one thing to know, and staff, please help me if I mess this up. One thing to know is that the signs that we put up within the city, that the city forces do, have one criteria. The signs that are in the right-of-way for the Department of Transportation have a different criteria, and it's actually a higher criteria, and we have to follow that. So there will be a different cost for the types of signs that appear around the community. I just need people to understand and know that. They have their requirements, and we have to follow those requirements. If you'll see on the sign, you've got two directions. You've got one straight ahead and one to the right. And the signs that have been placed around the city have been placed in such a way that people would be able to look at that sign and know exactly which way to go in order to get to wherever it is that they wanted to get to. This slide shows you the number of signs that, this is a concept, this is the number of signs that are due to be put out around the community. The yellow line, let me back up a minute. The red line is Western Boulevard, is that correct? The yellow line.
Yes, the yellow is Western Boulevard.
Okay, the yellow line is Western Boulevard. The red line would be Henderson
Gum Branch.
and Gum Branch, that's correct. The green line would be Marine Boulevard, and then the blue line is Lejeune Boulevard. And you can see the number of signs. Now, the staff has done in my opinion, has done a tremendous job of making sure that these signs are in the right location. They all have a number. I don't think need to go into details on the numbers too much, but they have done a tremendous job of making sure that the signs are in the right location. By the way, I wasn't present in the process of making this happen, but having been down that road several times before in my careers, that was time consuming. It wasn't something that you just take a map and say, okay, we'll put a sign here and here. They put a lot of thought and effort into it, and I want to compliment them for doing that. On Western Boulevard, you have signs that will get you to the Commons. It'll get you to the rec center itself. And remember now, the Commons has schools and lots of senior center and other items in there, so the separation is there for that. Also the Richard Ray Park, and then it'll get you also to the community college. If anybody has any questions or comments as I'm going through this, please don't hesitate. Marine Boulevard, here are the signs. You want to be talking about locating downtown. We'll get you to Sturgeon City. We'll get you to the Jacksonville Landing, Jacksonville Station. And the Jacksonville Station, of course, is not complete yet, but that is certainly a vital area that people will want to know how to get to. We have Phillips Park, and we have the Memorial Gardens, which, of course, is one of the centerpieces of our community. On Gum Branch, you have the library. You have Wilson Gate, getting you on Camp Lejeune. The community college, again, Jacksonville Station, again, the Memorial Gardens, and again, downtown. On NC 24, you have Northeast Creek Park. You have the second gate, the main gate, Holcomb Gate. Again, the Memorial Gardens. And then we see the Veterans Cemetery appearing on this as well. And then we have the Wilson Gate. Again, you can see the thought process that had to go in to making this plan as functional and as workable as possible. So here come the costs. Again, the city is saving a lot of money by simply doing a lot of these signs in-house, and we appreciate that. This is the breakdown of what it cost. It slips me as to the number. What is the total? Is that going to appear on the slide, the total number of signs that we're talking about?
It's 46, I think that's all.
46, okay. So far, we have spent $38,000. The available budget for this project is a little over $44,000. So as you can see, we still have some wiggle room left in the budget without having to go for an amendment if we go over. The next steps, We have to get some more Department of Transportation approval for some of the sites, and we have to do an update estimate again for some of the signs, and then we have to have final approval. Final approval would have to come from us, and since we don't have a quorum, we wouldn't be able to do that tonight. We were hoping to do that. And then, of course, the city staff will continue to fabricate and, not fabricate, that's not the right word. Sounds like we're doing something shady here. They'll continue to build the signs and install the signs. Any questions about the signage? I guess we'll have to do the full board and get the approval for all of this at our next meeting, okay?
I was going to ask Anthony one question about, is DOT approval just a formality, or is there possibilities that they would not approve, or?
They will approve.
Oh, okay.
We know that.
I see.
They have certain preferences and guidelines that we have to follow, which the image that you saw on the screen earlier, that is the type of sign they would allow us to install. So what you've seen on the map and what you have in the packet is what we're going to submit to them. They may have comments here and there, small things here and there that we have to adjust. And that's why, of course, we would come back to you after DOT approval to get final approval before we actually expend any funds on the project. So just a point of clarification, we haven't spent the money yet. It's budgeted, and it's reserved for this project, but we have not expended any funds on this one. We will, of course, once we get approval, if we get approval from the TDA and DOT.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Now, as you know, we are trying to come up with a sign for the Lejeune Memorial Gardens. And the staff has put up something for everybody to look at dimensional wise. In other words, it's approximately 16 feet long, 5 feet high. At our meeting, we discussed that, and it was pretty unanimous that the sign was not as big as we anticipated, nor was it as big as we wanted. However, we have some restrictions, and we're going to have to be creative in not only making it larger, but also staying within the budget of what is it DOT or the Department of Defense dictates to us.
Actually, building code.
Building code.
So we have to try to stay under 6 feet.
We may have to be a little creative in doing that, and we've talked a little bit about how to do that, and I think we're going to be able to do it. But let's get back to the size of the sign. We are restricted. It can't be more than 6 feet high. Okay? So we have to stay under that, which means the lettering may have to be adjusted to make it look good. It can't be, well, can it be longer than 16 feet? It can be longer than 16 feet. It just can't be any higher than 6 feet. Those are the restrictions that we're facing. So this is really an update for you. The staff is going to go back and massage this and see what they can do within the framework of what they're restricted. So we're going to depend on them to do that. Do you have a further update?
No, not at this time. We weren't
Okay.
quite sure if there was any other feedback from
From
all
us.
the other directors.
Okay. Randy, have you had a chance to go by
I
and
mean,
see?
I glanced at it. I guess it didn't really strike me either way. It was-
Either way?
Yeah.
Okay. I know Bob had some concerns about the
Yeah,
size, as I did.
It just looks out of scale, looks too small scale-wise with the panorama view that you've got of the parking and the trees and the grass. It just looks small, a little too small in proportion. So, you know, we may need another banner to go back out, whatever, 6 foot high and just, after you all put your heads back together and see what else you might come up with. But the main problem is still the $30,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, we have some,
We're restricted basically to that $30,000 with how we want to construct this thing.
but it is progress, and I'm sure the staff will put their heads together and come back with another plan that will satisfy everybody. Now we go to the Memorial Gardens. We talked about this a little bit.
Ken, that's
What did I
that's
do?
the same one. That's
the same one, I'm sorry.
Lejeune's-
That
yeah,
just-
Lejeune sign.
That shows you the right-of-ways and where the sign would be, or actually where it is now and where it would be. There you can see the scale that we were talking about. When we originally talked about this, 5 feet and 16 feet sounded pretty reasonable. But when you get it on site and you start looking depth-wise, as Bob just pointed out, it just doesn't do what we would like for it to do, quite honestly. So,
And I think once it's a 3D, it'll actually pop better, well, a real one, but the banner just, maybe it was the banner, but it just looked out of scale, but.
yeah.
And we have talked about framing it a little bit better with some landscaping in the back and around it to make it so that it's not so out of scale or out of place that it's, and I think to your point, Mr. Warden, if it was, once it gets three-dimensional, I think it'll take up some more space.
And we talked about was the lighting. Once we put the lighting on it, certainly at nighttime, I think it's going to show up a little differently than it looks right now, so.
I think the main thing here, if you don't mind me interjecting, is that we went through a process with a prototype that was good. Because if we had gone straight to construction with this the way it is, we might have been disappointed. So we're happy to go through as many prototypes as we need to get to where we need to be. And we can guarantee that the sign's going to be, it's going to be something to be proud of once we're done with it.
One thing you can do from a landscape architect standpoint, right now what you're seeing is just the sign in a field. We can add a couple of feet of fill, and that doesn't violate the 6-foot rule. Second thing we can do is the landscaping that is there today is just nothing but grass, just open space. As Deanna and Anthony both said, by framing this with proper landscaping, you actually increase the, what I'm going to call the visual impact. So I do think that if you could increase the length of the sign from 16 feet to a little bit longer, keep the height in the 5 to 6 foot area, keep us under the $30,000 limit that would avoid having to have a general contractor. I think you're going to find that by adding all the landscaping components, that you'll be able to frame it and make it look like it fits into the setting correctly.
That's interesting, because you could also, talking about the landscaping, you could also raise the sign up,
Yes, sir.
which would make it.
I mean, right now, as you look at it, you can see that well, we have pictures on the same, where it says view from the driveway. At the very left of that picture, you can see that the road edge is probably 2 or 3 feet higher than the bottom of the sign that's there.
Right.
By adding fill dirt, you're going to raise that sign, and then by putting in your landscape beds, I actually believe that by framing it correctly and maybe extending the length of the sign a little bit, you're going to be very pleased with it. One thing, though, that we do know, and would you go back to the previous rendition of the sign?
Whoops, I'm sorry.
There you go. One of the things, we need to have more space between the edge of the sign and the M and the S in gardens and the edge of the sign. It needs to have a little bit more spatial framing of the wording itself. But if you like the concept, I believe the staff can now bring this home, and that you're going to be very pleased with the things that we've talked about, raising with dirt the elevation, framing it well with landscaping, trying to extend the sign a little bit further. Usually you like to have what they call the 3-to-1 rule. If it's 5 feet high, it's got to be 15, 16 feet long. Well, in this particular case, because of the lettering, we need to have the sign a little bit longer than the 3-to-1 rule. So, good work by the staff, though, and the advisory committee.
Excellent work by the staff. Since we don't have a quorum, is the staff under a time refrain? Can we just tell them to move on and let's bring something back at the next meeting?
Sir, if you go to the next slide, the only constraint that we're under is that red line right there.
Yeah,
We
well,
have to
get rid
make
of the
sure
red
that-
line and let's move on.
I wish it were that complicated.
No, I know, I'm just teasing.
So that is the only constraint that we have to work within, but I'm fully confident that we'll be able to come up with a concept that you'll appreciate.
Well, I am too, based on what you've already done and demonstrated. Okay. Well, this is going to be feedback from the full board, which is not going to happen today, so let's just have you guys report at the next one, and I'm sure the ad hoc's going to meet before then, so we'll bring information back. Okay, here's the one that's going to be much more difficult, the Beirut Memorial Grove. We didn't spend a lot of time on this one at our ad hoc meeting, but it's still out there. I had proposed, or threw out, not proposed, but threw out as an idea, instead of putting a sign, a structure, that we do it in ground. And by that, I mean, we could put it with rock material, or I'm sure all of you have seen this at other places around the country, where you could actually write out on the ground the Beirut Memorial Grove and do landscaping. You could actually do it with flowers if you wanted to. In other words, it was just an idea because, first of all, we have a cost issue because of the length of the sign. And then we're going to have a construction issue because of the steepness on both sides. So with that in mind, I just thought maybe we ought to explore, I'm not saying it could even happen, I don't know, explore putting it in the ground or doing it that way. So we didn't spend a lot of time discussing that. It was something that I had thought about. But we don't have, the ad hoc committee has no recommendation at this time. That's the short of it. But we do, or I do at least, have some feeling about this site, and I'm hoping that we can come to some sort of situation where we're going to wrestle this one to the ground and make it happen. So we'll just have to see. Bob, do you have any comment?
No comment.
Okay. Staff? Okay. We talked very briefly about the Welcome Center. That's still a big item, one that's been talked about for a long time. And we looked at the site. We also understand that there's some, let's see if nope, let's do it. Okay, this is basically the site, but I think we have an opportunity to expand that, and certainly with the parking that already is on the ground, the opportunity exists to utilize some of that existing parking and free up some space for not only the building, but some different type of parking. So we talked about it briefly, certainly came to no conclusions. What we would tell everybody is it's still on the radar, it's still a desire. We did talk about who needs to be involved in this project. Came to no conclusions, but certainly if it's going to be a welcome center for Jacksonville, having it as a welcome center for Jacksonville and Onslow County should certainly be looked at. And since we're going to be funding it with tourism money, the county is into tourism business as well, and we may be able to, sit down and talk with them and see if there's a mutual agreement to, be part of this project. The Sports Commission was mentioned as a possible occupant for this building. I think, based on our discussions, we all agree that this is going to be a great project. It needs to be moved forward. So you will see more discussions, not only by the ad hoc committee, but I'm sure the full board, about this particular project, but it's on our radar. We also talked about the timeline. I think the council has already determined that the existing building will be demolished. And we talked about the collaborative effort with the county and whoever else needs to be involved. And then we talked about the possibility of there being some federal grant money to fund the construction. So I think the staff is going to look into the third item just to see what's out there and see if there's any opportunities to get some grant money for this. It's an exciting project, and I think it's not only an exciting project, I think it's a project that can bring some parties together. And, the government and the general public are always looking for ways to save tax dollars, as they should be. And this is an opportunity, I think, for two entities, the city and the county, to maybe come together and do something together and have people in one building that would be doing, good stuff for both entities, but we'll see. Politics always comes into play.
Sir, if I may add, the one really good way that we're hoping to offset the local costs of that is with the federal grant. And we have identified a very solid prospect, and we're in the process of developing that application, and we'll have that done within the next 30 days.
Oh, fantastic.
You told me about it tomorrow.
Okay, so this is the grant application timeline?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. These are some of the factors that we're considering when filling out the application. It helps determine our level of competitiveness.
Right. And so when we move down to item 5, the timeline, the boss has already given you the marching orders of tomorrow, is that?
That's what he said. It wasn't just for the application, it was for construction too. So.
Okay. Well, that's exciting news. I mean, anytime you can, tap into another funding source to make a project happen, you not only have an opportunity to expand the project, you have an opportunity to have additional funding for it. So let us know how that goes. And that completes the ad hoc committee report. Again, I want to thank the staff for guiding us through this and giving us the information and doing the hard work that gets us to this point. So job well done, and thank you very much. Mr. Chairman?
Well, thank you, Ken, for that great report. That was a lot of good information. And now, the grant application, now, how close do you have to be with a cost estimate? You don't just...
I think we're close enough at this point. We had an original design for the project a couple years ago,
Right.
Put it out to bid, got some bids back. We want to make some minor adjustments to that design, which of course will add a little bit of cost, but with the amount of money that the city spent on acquiring the property versus some of the, in addition to some of the other improvements, like demolishing the building, Jacksonville Landing, things of that nature, we're going to have plenty of local money into the project already to be able to leverage federal dollars to build the building.
Oh, well, great. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that. Well, that's actually the end of our agenda. We've got some more information in the back of the reports everybody can look at on their own, but unless we have some additional comments from our standing directors, we're kind of at the end of the meeting here. Bob, good?
A comment.
Ken? No, sir. All right, well, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. I don't know, do we adjourn them? No, we don't need to.
We don't even need to adjourn? Okay.
Yes, you-
Well, the meeting's over.
You can
then.
adjourn it, Mr. Chairman.
Thought I was going
Thank you.
to have to second.